Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
From makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia, this is the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I am your host, Joey Harris. Follow the show on Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. Folks, things are slowing down at my job, which is good because it gives me the opportunity to catch up on personal projects. So I go in, work on the work stuff first, get all of that out of the way. And the nature of my job gives me the flexibility to work on personal projects and professional projects at the same time. That's what's so good about it. And something I did, finished over the weekend, we had closing for my job, closing for the semester. And so I was in my office on a Saturday, which I'm never in my office on a Saturday. And I've been reading and I finished up Brian Gewirtz's book, There's Just One Problem. And it was really, really good about his time in WWE as a writer, and just really good. I can't recommend that enough. Ordered another book about the 2004 Boston Red Sox that I'm hoping to get. Probably with the way things are, I'll get it when we start the new year. I'll get it around then, and I'll let you know about that. This week, Project 45 stops in 2017 as we look at the UK Championship Special from the WWE. The UK Championship Special was filmed May 2nd, 2017 and shown on the WWE Network on May 19th, 2017 from Epic Studios in Norwich, Norfolk, England. Jim Ross and Nigel McGuinness are the announcers for the event. We start out with the WWE Then, Now, Forever intro. Highlights of Tyler Bate becoming the first WWE UK champion. Some of the participants from the tournament talk about how the tournament has changed their lives. JR and Nigel welcome us to the UK Special and run down what we are going to see on the show. Our first match is Wolfgang versus Joseph Connors. Feature on both wrestlers airs before the match. The bell rings. They slowly circle each other. They lock up. Connors with a go-behind. Wolfgang reverses it into a side headlock. Connors reverses back into a wrist lock to drive Wolfgang down to the mat. Wolfgang back up and Connors with a side headlock. Wolfgang pushes off. Double shoulder block and neither man moves. Connors runs the ropes and Wolfgang hits him with a drop kick, which was impressive by the big man. Wolfgang with an Irish whip drops his head early and Connors hits him with a forearm to the back of the head. Wolfgang with a clothesline to come back. Wolfgang with a corner charge, but Connors moves out of the way. Connors with a kick, and he goes for a suplex, but Wolfgang blocks it several times. Connors with forearms to knock Wolfgang down. Wolfgang comes back with a delayed vertical suplex of his own. He finally drops Connors. He gets a 2 count. Wolfgang with a forearm and a scoop slam. Wolfgang goes up top and gets caught and pushed off by Connors. Wolfgang up on the 5 count, only to be hit by a baseball slide from Connors. Connors comes out after Wolfgang. He runs Wolfgang back first into the apron. He then throws Wolfgang back into the ring with his head hanging out over the apron and hits Wolfgang with several forearms. He then slams Wolfgang's head on the apron and then briefly rolls back in to break the count before rolling out again. He then lateral presses over the top rope onto Wolfgang for a 2 count. Connors slams a knee down onto Wolfgang. Connors pummeling Wolfgang down in the corner. Wolfgang into the ropes, so the referee gets Connors away. Connors pulls Wolfgang into the corner post and stretches him there for a 3 count. Then a running baseball slide into Wolfgang to knock him back to the floor again. Dueling chants go out as Connors gets Wolfgang back in the ring. Wolfgang pushes off and gets a knee to Connors. Connors ducks a clothesline attempt and hits a modified tilt-a-whirl slam, another 2 count. Connors targeting the ribs of Wolfgang with a series of punches. Then Connors stretching Wolfgang on the mat, trying to get him to give up. He gets another 2 count. Back and forth in the center of the ring. Wolfgang with a couple of corner whips and a backdrop onto Connors. Another corner whip and a corner crossbody by Wolfgang onto Connors in a unique move that I've never seen before. Wolfgang goes up top and hits Connors with a double axe handle. Wolfgang gets a close 2 count. Wolfgang gets Connors up in a fireman's carry, but Connors with a series of forearms to Wolfgang to slide out of the hold. Wolfgang grabs Connors from behind, but again Connors slides out of the hold. Connors goes up to the second rope and comes off like he's going to spear Wolfgang, who gets his knees up and hits a backstabber-like move on Connors. Wolfgang goes up top to go for the howling, but Connors rolls away so that he is too far for Wolfgang to hit the move. Connors out on the apron. Wolfgang comes over and Connors hits him with a shoulder to the chest. Connors with a sort of float over the ropes DDT move on Wolfgang to get a 2 count. Connors with some elbows to Wolfgang's ribs. Wolfgang with a reverse elbow counter to get out of the move. Wolfgang gets Connors up in the military press, but again Connors slips behind. Connors is more slippery than a divorce lawyer. A power bomb gets a 2 count for Connors. Connors attacking Wolfgang's ribs with a series of double axe handles. Connors goes up to the second rope and comes off only to be speared out of nowhere by Wolfgang. Wolfgang goes up top and hits the howling to pin Connors. That was an intense match. We get a WWE Network ad. Mark Andrews is shown in the back getting ready. Tyler Bate is then shown getting ready as well. TJP and the Brian Kendrick, no relation, versus Dan Maloney and Rich Swann. Maloney and Kendrick start. The bell rings. Kendrick tries to attack Maloney from behind when he briefly turns his head, but backs off when Maloney turns back. Kendrick with a kick to the stomach, into a side headlock. Maloney lifts Kendrick up and throws him off. Maloney rushes Kendrick in the corner, but Kendrick moves out of the way and gets an armbar on Maloney around the top rope for a 3 count. He reapplies a wrist lock in the center of the ring and Maloney trying to get out of the move. Kendrick brings Maloney over to the corner and tags TJP in. He picks the wrist lock up and slams it down on the top rope. TJP with a snapmare and a drop kick on Maloney. He then goes over to taunt Swann in the corner. A lock up and TJP with another wrist lock and Kendrick tagged back in. Kendrick slams Maloney's arm down on the top rope and comes in. He gets Maloney in a front face lock and then delivers several forearms to the back. Maloney gets out of the front face lock and gets Kendrick in a waist lock, but Kendrick tags TJP back in. TJP comes in and gets a front face lock on Maloney. Maloney tries to lift TJP up to break the hold, but TJP reverses it into a suplex. He gets a 1 count. TJP brings Maloney over to Kendrick, and Kendrick slams Maloney's arm on the top rope several times. Kendrick then tagged in. Kendrick with an elbow to the back of the head of Maloney. TJP turns around and Kendrick goes to put Maloney's arm there so they can do their rope spot again, but Maloney pushes Kendrick into the spot instead, so TJP is unknowingly hurting his own partner. Maloney and Swann go to the outside and go over to TJP's corner, so he sees them and then realizes what he is doing. TJP and Kendrick start arguing in their corner. Maloney gets TJP back in and runs him headfirst into a turnbuckle, and Nigel says Maloney should have used that opportunity to make a tag to Swann. Maloney gets TJP on the second rope and goes out on the apron to deliver a running kick to TJP's face. He gets a 2 count. Maloney with a front face lock to TJP and Swann tagged in. Double atomic drop to TJP. Double slam to TJP, who rolls out of the ring to avoid more punishment. Kendrick comes in and Swann gets him in a waist lock and slams Kendrick down, and he rolls out of the ring as well. Swann runs and Maloney backdrops Swann onto Kendrick and TJP on the outside. He then rolls TJP back in the ring and gets a 1 count. Swann with an Irish whip to TJP, who avoids a clothesline attempt and tags Kendrick in without Swann knowing. TJP pushes Swann towards Kendrick, who guillotines Swann on the top rope. Kendrick comes back into the ring and kicks Swann in the head. Kendrick then hits Swann with a knee to the head. He gets a 2 count. Kendrick with a corner whip, and Swann hits the corner sternum first. Kendrick lifts Swann up, and Swann tries to come back with a series of right and left hands. Swann jumps to try to tag Maloney in, but Kendrick grabs Swann by the waist to cut off the tag attempt. Swann's still going for the tag, and Kendrick has him by the ankle to keep him away from the corner. Swann kicks Kendrick away, but Kendrick grabs Swann by the head before Swann can tag. Then Kendrick grabs Swann by the wrist, and both men reach towards their respective corners to tag. Swann with an enziguri to break the hold, and both TJP and Maloney tagged in. Maloney comes in and clears the ring, knocking both TJP and Kendrick down. He chops both men, runs TJP into Kendrick, and then hits a scissor kick to TJP. Maloney with a series of chops and an Irish whip to TJP. He then slams TJP down and goes for the pin, but Kendrick breaks up the attempt. Maloney clotheslines Kendrick out of the ring. Maloney with more right and left hands to TJP in the middle of the ring. He goes to run the ropes, but Kendrick grabs his leg from the outside. Maloney looks down at Kendrick, giving TJP the opportunity to hit him with a spinning kick. TJP grinds his heel into Maloney's face as the crowd starts to taunt TJP. TJP covers his ears and kicks Maloney repeatedly. TJP with a wrist lock and Kendrick tagged in. Maloney hitting some punches on Kendrick to try to get out of the corner. Kendrick comes back with a drop toe hold. Kendrick gets on Maloney and hits a series of forearms. Maloney immediately grabs the ropes, so Kendrick gets up and plants his boot in Maloney's neck and stands on his back. TJP tagged back in. He scoop slams Maloney and hits a slingshot senton. He only gets a 2 count. TJP with a combination hammerlock chin lock combo on Maloney. Maloney lifts TJP up and hits a belly to back suplex. Kendrick tagged in and runs to Swan to try to knock him off the apron, but Swan punches Kendrick and Maloney then backdrops him. Swan tagged in and he cleans house on TJP and Kendrick. He hits a back kick to Kendrick and then a modified Harlem hangover to Kendrick to get a close 2 count. Swan goes up top but gets caught by Kendrick and Kendrick attempts a superplex. But Swan holds Kendrick and comes off the ropes with an inverted atomic drop to Kendrick. TJP breaks up the pin attempt. All 4 men in and Maloney gets TJP in the ropes and rushes him, but TJP moves and Maloney goes flying to the floor. Swan goes for a move on TJP, only to get caught in the captain's hook by Kendrick. Maloney gets back in the ring to break up the submission. Maloney tagged in. He hits Kendrick several times and he then gets some corner-mounted punches in. Kendrick with a shot to Maloney to get out of the ropes. Kendrick arguing with the referee, so TJP comes in and attacks Maloney. Maloney pushes TJP to the outside. Maloney picks Kendrick up and goes to slam him, but TJP grabs Kendrick's arms from the apron. The referee counting TJP, who finally breaks the hold. Kendrick rolls Maloney up and pins him with a handful of tights. A bring it to the table ad. They show Wolfgang taking on Trent Seven from night 1 and Seven getting injured. Charlie Caruso interviews Trent Seven after the match. Seven says his arm is not that good, but it is not broken. It's annoying, but there's no way he's giving up this opportunity. Pete Dunne then comes in and Seven says, "I'll see you tomorrow." Dunne then attacks Seven and slams his arm up against the wall. Dunne then leaves. JR and Nigel discuss the attack and the upcoming match. Number 1 contenders match for the UK Championship. Trent Seven versus Pete Dunne. They show a feature on Dunne and Seven before the match. Dunne comes out. He is the current Progress champion and has the belt with him. Seven comes out with his arm taped up. Mustache Mountain Bruiserweight chants go out. The bell rings. They circle each other. Seven drives Dunne into the ropes. The referee breaks it up. They circle each other again. They lock up and drive to the ropes again. Again they break. Dunne with a knuckle lock. Into a wrist lock and Seven goes down to the mat. Seven thus far has been trying to protect his right arm. Dunne working on the wrist while Seven is fighting to get back to his feet. He does and breaks the hold. Another lock up. Dunne grabbing for Seven's injured arm, so Seven chops Dunne. Dunne goes down to his knees. Seven with another chop as Dunne gets back up. Dunne in the corner, but gets his boot up on a Seven charge and goes to the second rope. Seven pulls him off the rope and clotheslines Dunne. Seven with a cover, but only gets a 1 count. Seven gets Dunne in a headlock on the mat. Dunne gets to his feet and reverses into a waistlock. Seven gets to the ropes. Dunne releases the hold and chops the bad arm of Seven. Dunne grabs the injured arm and gets Seven down on the mat. He then kicks the injured arm. Seven rolls to the outside to regroup. Dunne comes out after Seven. He hits Seven with a hard European uppercut. Dunne then puts Seven's arm up in the ring step gap by the ring post and then kicks the ring steps to injure the arm further. Dunne then kicks Seven down and a double count going. Both men finally get back in the ring and Dunne immediately attacks Seven when he is down. Dunne with his knee on the injured arm and punching Seven. He slams down on Seven, then rolls him over and puts his foot on Seven's head and starts to pull off the tape on Seven's arm. Dunne attacking the arm methodically and forces Seven down for a 1 count. Dunne then slams the injured arm on the mat. Dunne then gets an arm lock on, but Seven gets his feet on the ropes. Dunne with a running kick to the head and gets a 2 count. Dunne goes back to working on the injured arm. Seven gets back up and starts chopping Dunne with the injured arm. Seven acts like he's going to chop Dunne again, and Dunne covers up, but Seven was faking and DDT's Dunne. Dunne rolls out of the ring to regroup, but Seven runs and hits a tope between the ropes on Dunne. Seven throws Dunne back into the ring. Dunne kicks the injured arm as Seven was trying to get back in the ring. Dunn grabs the injured arm and starts kicking Seven in the head. Dunn gets Seven up and tries for the bitter end, but Seven reverses with the go behind and goes for the 7-star. Dunn pushes off, so Seven hits him with the big lariat. He gets a close 2 count. Both men down on the mat and hurting, both men using the ropes to pull themselves up. Seven rushes Dunn, who sidesteps him and hits a release German suplex. Dunn goes over to Seven and grabs him, but Seven reverses it into a scoop slam for another close 2 count. The referee checking both men. Seven rushes Dunn in the corner. Dunn sidesteps and throws Seven shoulder first into the ring post. Dunn hits a backdrop driver into an X-plex. He gets a very close 2 count. Dunn goes back on the attack as he grabs Seven's injured arm and works it over again. Seven works his way over and gets his feet on the ropes again. Seven out on the apron, and the referee is checking on him. Dunn comes out after Seven and runs him into the barricade. Dunn comes over and attempts to break the fingers of Seven with joint manipulation, as he has been doing all match long and is a master of it. He breaks when the referee counts, then gets Seven up on the apron and kicks him in the head several times, back and forth on the apron. Seven hits a dragon suplex on Dunn on the apron, and they both fall to the outside. A double count going. A holy shit chant goes out. Both men get back in the ring right before the 10 count. A this is awesome chant goes out. Dunn goes up top, but gets caught by Seven, who chops him. Seven gets up on the second rope and grabs Dunn, who keeps elbowing Seven to try to get him off. Seven falls off the ropes, but lands on his feet and chops Dunn. Dunn turned around, and Seven gets him in a full Nelson and suplexes him off, and Dunn lands on his feet, back and forth in the center of the ring. Dunn comes off the ropes, and Seven hits him with a big lariat for a near fall. Both men down, and a this is awesome chant goes out again. Then a British wrestling chant goes out. Seven goes for a move, but Dunn gets a double wrist lock with the body scissors on. Seven powers back up and hits a snapdragon suplex. Seven gets Dunn up on his shoulders, but Dunn slides off and hits the bitter end on Seven to get the pin to become the #1 contender for the WWE UK Championship. Dunn gets on the mic and says, "I told you people would get hurt." The goal remains the same, and at NXT TakeOver Chicago, he takes what's rightfully his, by any means necessary. WWE 24 Special on Finn Balor ad. WWE UK Championship match. Feature on both wrestlers in the main event. Tyler Bate versus Mark Andrews. Unique entrances for both participants. Andrews booed when announced. Bate is mostly cheered when announced. The bell rings and they are just staring at each other. The crowd is chanting something towards Bate, but you can't make out what it is. They lock up and Andrews with a go behind into a roll up for a 1 count. Both get back to their feet. They circle each other again. Bate with a wrist lock to force Andrews down. Andrews gets back up and reverses the wrist lock on Bate into an armbar and Bate down on the ground. Bate then works his way back to his feet and some good British-based mat wrestling going on. Andrews goes back to the wrist lock. A series of counters by both men. Both out and back to their feet, and the crowd applauds both men. Bate with a single leg takedown into a leg lock, then back to the wrist lock, into a hammer lock. Andrews manipulates his own foot behind himself to break the hold and flips Bate down to the mat and gets a 2 count. Bate goes for a single leg float over into a front face lock, and Bate lifts Andrews up and puts him on a turnbuckle, showing an incredible amount of strength. He then breaks clean and extends his hand to Andrews. Andrews shakes his hand, and another lock up, and Bate with a go behind. Andrews breaks the hold, so Bate transitions into a full Nelson. Andrews slips out, but flips around, so Bate simply reapplies the hold. A "This is Wrestling" chant goes out. Andrews again slips out and flips, and again Bate simply reapplies the full Nelson. Andrews needs to try something else because this is not working out for him so far. Andrews with a break and transitions to a hammer lock. Bate drops to the ground and gets a drop toe hold on Andrews into a leg grapevine by Bate. Andrews reaches for and grabs the ropes. Bate breaks and both men back to their feet. Bate with a go behind and gets a snapmare on Andrews. Andrews flips through and lands on his feet. Both men are really impressing me. Andrews flips around one attack, but Bate hits him with an arm drag. Andrews blocks another arm drag attempt, so Bate simply switches arms and tries for the other side and gets an arm drag. Andrews back up, and Bates hits him with the flying head scissors, and Andrew cartwheels out of it to remain on his feet. Both men try for drop kicks at the same time. Both men also kip up at the same time, and the crowd applauds them. Face-to-face trash-talking each other. They push each other. Andrews pushes Bate into the ropes. Bate comes back with a sunset flip. Andrews rolls through and drop kicks Bate. He gets a 2 count. Andrews gets an armbar on Bate. Bate works back to his feet. Andrews works him back down with the armbar and goes for another cover. Another 2 count, and JR calls it a mildly epic near fall. Andrews goes back to the armbar since it keeps Bate down. Andrews goes for the octopus stretch. He gets it on, so Bate's slowly trying to inch his way to the ropes. He almost gets there, so Andrews shifts to go for a pin and gets a 2 count. Bate comes with a back elbow to knock Andrews down. Bate follows that up with a scoop slam. Bate with a rolling splash on Andrews and gets another 2 count. Bate with a reverse Boston Crab. Bate also grabs Andrews' arms and swings him like a pendulum. Andrews shaking his head no furiously when asked if he wants to give up. Bate lets the hold go and flips Andrews over for another 2 count. Bate gets Andrew in the corner and hits a stiff-looking European uppercut to him. He then hits another one. Bate then works on Andrews' legs by delivering a series of kicks. Bate then runs Andrews into another turnbuckle head first. Bate follows that up with a running elbow. He then charges Andrews, but gets caught with an enziguri from Bate. Andrews follows that up with a Hurricane Rana. Bate rolls to the outside. Andrews runs and hits an over-the-top suicide dive on Bate, and Andrews then lands on his feet. Andrews then throws Bate back into the ring. Andrews gets a roll through and a double stomp on Bate. Andrews follows that up with a Northern Light suplex, and he wastes time as he gets up, so Bate rolls him up and gets a 2 count. Andrews ducks a clothesline attempt and hits a couple of kicks to Bate. Bate ducks an enziguri attempt. Andrews ducks a shot and flips onto Bate to get a 2 count. Andrews goes for an Irish whip, but Bate holds on to the ropes. Bate hits Andrews with the forearm. Andrews rushes Bate, who jumps to avoid him, and Andrews spills out to the floor. Bate then runs and hits Andrews with a tope. Back in the ring, Bate goes for the Tiger Driver, but Andrews reverses it into a bridge for a 2 count. But Bate has the strength to bridge out of that and goes for the Tiger Driver again. Andrews rolls through and hits sort of a modified Canadian Destroyer for a 2 count. Andrews rushes Bate, who backdrops Andrews to the apron. Andrews with a shoulder, and it looks like he is going for a sunset flip from the apron, but Bate hits him with an uppercut. Bate goes for a move, but Andrews moves, and Bate flips out to the apron where Andrews hits him with an enziguri. Andrews hits Bate with a standing sliced bread number 2 on the apron. Andrews falls out to the floor as a holy shit chant goes out. Andrews tries to follow up, but Bate rolls to the outside. A "This is awesome" chant goes out. Andrews goes out to the apron to moonsault onto Bate, who catches Andrews, but Andrews counters that into a DDT onto the floor. A double count going as Andrews tries to get Bate back into the ring, but Bate is out and is dead weight. He finally gets Bate in and goes for a cover and gets a close 2 count. Andrews tries to go to the top rope, but Bate grabs his leg before he can do it. Andrews kicks Bate away. Bate comes back with a forearm to Andrews. Bate goes up, and Andrews hits Bate with an enziguri. Andrews goes for a Hurricane Rana from the top rope, but Bate pushes him off, and Andrews crotches himself on the top rope. Bate then hits Andrews with another European uppercut from the top rope, while Andrews is still up on the rope itself. He gets another close 2 count. Both men on their knees, and Bate hitting Andrews with a series of forearm shots. Both make it back to their feet and are exchanging chops in the middle of the ring. Bate with a shot to the jaw to knock Andrews down. Bate goes to throw Andrews out, but Andrews hits a 619 on Bate. Andrews then rolls back in, and Bate hits him with another uppercut. Bate with an airplane spin. Bate slows, and Andrews hits him with a reverse Hurricane Rana. He gets an extremely close 2 count. A holy shit chant goes out again. Andrews goes to the top rope. Bate runs and catches him with an enziguri. Bate goes up and gets Andrews on his shoulders, and Andrews reverses it and hits Bate with a Hurricane Rana off the top rope. Andrews follows it up with a running shooting star press for another 2 count, and Andrews has to be thinking, what do I have to do to put this guy away? Andrews with a front face lock. Bate comes back with a super kick. Bate runs and uses the top rope for momentum to hit a lariat on Andrews. Bate goes for a suplex, and Andrews turns it into a stunner in midair. Andrews goes up top and comes off with a shooting star press, but Bate gets his knees up to counter. Bate up as Andrews tries to will himself to get back to his feet. He does, only to be hit with a rolling kick by Bate. Bate follows that up with the Tiger Driver 97 to get the pin. The crowd gives the match a standing ovation. JR and Nigel go over some of the highlights of the match as the referee helps Andrews out of the ring and back up the ramp. They get to the top of the ramp, and Pete Dunne is there. He clotheslines Andrews to the ground. William Regal and Pete Dunne then get in the ring with Tyler Bate. Dunne puts his hand out, but Bate won't shake it. JR and Nigel then plug the two men meeting at TakeOver as they sign off from Norwich. Final thoughts. This was a fantastic show with a variety of unique styles. Well worth checking out. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate it. You can support the show at paypal.me/cupofjoepod. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.